What did school try to teach you that was obviously false? I drew a picture of a butterfly in per school and got in trouble for arguing with my teacher because she said butterflies don't have legs, so my picture wasn't accurate. I always wanted to go back to some of those teachers and tell them, "Remember me? You taught me butterflies don't have legs, you were wrong." Saying no to bullies will stop them. My school never said this, but my parents gave me a version of it. Stand up to them, and they'll leave you alone. I did, and it worked. The problem is I am actually a pretty big dude and have always been bigger than the kids my age. I won those fights. They backed down because they didn't like getting beat up. It doesn't work if you stand up to them and don't win the fight. That your permanent record would follow you throughout your career, scaring kids into being good by saying you'll never get a decent job if you don't try hard in school and behave yourself. Some of the biggest dickheads in school ended up with great careers because A. Nobody cares about your grades, and B. Shit floats. My permanent record followed me. I wrote in it that I wanted to be a forest ranger when I grew up. Years later, my son found it with my old stuff, read that, and started telling me, "Yes sir, Mr. Ranger sir," in a Yogi Bear voice. Gotta admit it was pretty funny, so yeah, my permanent record did follow me. DR in street addresses was pronounced doctor, not drive. A history teacher told us during class that Da Vinci believed he was a god. His explanation: he painted the Mona Lisa, which is supposed to be the perfect woman, and only a god can make something perfect. Therefore, Da Vinci believed he was a god. The teacher seemed so angry at Da Vinci for that, and went on a rant on how ridiculous he was. This was the only time something like this happened with the teacher. We were so confused. The food pyramid. That I wouldn't have a calculator on me wherever I go. When you go to high school, all your assignments will be written in cursive with a pen. I am in a high school now, and most of our stuff is typed on Google Docs. Whenever we work with paper, the teacher doesn't care if we print or handwrite. Most teachers have actually advised against using pens. We had a substitute tell us that condoms are bad because HIV is small enough to sneak through the tiny spaces in between the lattice of the latex. It was a social studies period. 3 years later, I saw him again for one of my science classes. He had us pass around this clipboard with some bullshit sovereign citizen square waiver or agreement or whatever you want to call it, basically saying we agree to view religious material. He had all of us sign it like a petition and proceeded to put on some weird God is great sort of drama movie. We told our science teacher when he came back, and he called the district and got the dude blacklisted. Just get good marks in school and your life would be great. When they teach me the senses, like sight, touch, all those 5 senses, we started to talk about the sense of taste, and those Emif tried to convince the whole class that our tongue has different sections and that we taste specific things in the sections. Like the sour things were only tasted at the left back of our tongue, the salty ones in the right front. When they told me this, I didn't believe it, but all of my other classmates did, and they made fun of me for not believing it. Guess who was right all this time? Me! All that shit about the sections of the tongue. Bullshit. Just because you are popular doesn't mean you'll be successful. Fuck all. Since graduating college, it's been all about networks and who you know, who likes you. I have literally asked people how they got their job, and they said they knew someone that pulled them in with no qualifications or experience. It's a tall pill to swallow. Had a science teacher who told me blood was blue until I teach oxygen. Luckily, I knew she was wrong. I think it was during 3rd grade. Had a high school history teacher, she was originally from Alabama, try to teach the class that slaves were actually treated very well and that we were being taught propaganda. We were high school students, but we knew bullshit when we heard it. Someone must have said something, because the principal said in the next couple of days and we got a more realistic view of what happened during the Civil War. That the American Civil War was not actually fought over slavery but over states' rights. This was at public school in Texas around 2007-2008. I was homeschooled to believe that the South had lots of reasons for the Civil War and that the North made it an issue of slavery to have the moral high ground. Color me surprised when I read in the actual articles of Confederation that the reason they were setting was due to slavery and their reliance on the practice. The story about how George Washington chopped down a cherry tree, the origin of Thanksgiving and everything about Columbus. Oh, and I got an F on a book report once because the teacher insisted that the moon landing was a fake and that books about the Apollo space missions are full of lies. In his defense, it was a really thick book and I would wager the teacher was borderline illiterate. My 3rd grade teacher insisted that the flat unleavened cornbread was pronounced tortilla and not tortilla. I corrected her during class one day and was suspended for the rest of the week. The principal said that if the teacher said that was how it was, then it must be right. It wasn't from my school, but a friend's. Their science teacher would constantly try to explain that uranium was discovered by America, though he just couldn't find out who did. Even though when Lyle half the class showed proof that it was discovered by a German man in 1789. The teacher would refuse to listen to the class to the point where he would yell at the kids and handed out detentions. My friend still doesn't know why he was so confident about it. If you have sex with someone, it's like putting a piece of tape on your arm. Every time you have sex with someone new, you rip the tape off and retape with that same piece. Eventually, it stops sticking, which is, of course, a completely accurate metaphor to why you will not have any kids of success in relationship if you give pieces of yourself away to random guys. Also, female shoulders are bad, but never male. That is because I don't believe in Jesus. I can't have God grades because Jesus gives knowledge to the most wealthy followers. Also, it was fine that I was sexually assaulted by a male student because he was young and we would find Jesus sooner than others. I guess that's what I get for going to some teeny Christian school in the UK. That Columbus was a great guy and a hero. That you have to go to college to have any chance at a great career. That America is the best country. The American school system IMO is fucked and full of propaganda to keep the average developing American from thinking for themselves and believe in the land of the free, and American dream is still the greatest thing out there. If so, why is our country falling apart at the seams slowly but surely, and why can't anyone survive with just enough work? Christopher Columbus discovered America that he was trying to prove the world was round, that he was a good person, attract. It wasn't until high school I found out how much of a shitbag he was, and that Amerigo Vespucci actually discovered America, hence its namesake.